You're listening to a special edition of We Get Work, recorded live from Workplace Horizons 2025 in New York City, Jackson Lewis's annual labor and employment law conference. Over 500 representatives from 260 companies gathered together to share valuable insights and best practices on workplace law issues impacting their business today. Here's your personal invitation to get the insights from the conference delivered directly to you. We'll see you in 2026. Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to Live from Workplace Horizons 2025 and our special We Get Work podcast series. In the room with me this afternoon, I am pleased to welcome Stacey Bastone, principal in the Long Island office of Jackson Lewis, Joy Chin, also in the Long Island office, and Laura Mitchell, a principal from our Denver office. Welcome, ladies. So the first question I'm going to ask you is an easy one. Just tell me a little bit about yourself and your practice and what you're helping employers with in 2025, which I know can be a loaded question. Laura.
Yeah, it is a loaded question these days, helping employers a lot navigating the new DEI landscape, unwinding federal contractor obligations, conducting pay equity analyses, and complying with pay transparency laws.
Joy?
I am actually helping clients with the same things as Laura. It's been quite a busy time. I think employers are struggling to find out how to work, right, in this new atmosphere.
Stacey?
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I do a lot as my distinguished colleagues right here. And I think, one of the biggest things that we've had to kind of learn to adapt to is just how quickly things are changing. So one of the primary things that we're spending a lot of our time doing is keeping track of everything, digesting it, and then getting that information out to our employers, to our clients.
Okay. So your presentation today was about fair pay, and I think the title of your presentation was, How is Fair Pay Faring? So I will ask you that question. And Joy, can you tell us a little bit about what you spoke about in your presentation today?
So we spoke about pay equity as it stands today, right? Because it's been about 16 years, right, since pay equity was thrust into the spotlight under the Obama administration. And we've seen it take a lot of twists and turns, as Stacey has said. So we talked about how employers should be looking at pay equity now under the current administration and how they can and should be complying with the pay transparency laws that were intended to advance equal pay.
So Laura, what issues really resonated with our audience members and that you want to share with our audience of podcast listeners? Because there's federal laws and there's state laws, and I know that employers have a lot of challenges when it comes to pay.
Yeah, I think really the discussion that we had today differed from years past where we're talking about what the laws were and the nuances of them. And really we focused this year on a discussion of the practical implications. How should you be conducting pay equity analyses? What should you be thinking about? What are the nuances of compliance with the expansive pay transparency laws? So really those discussions and those practical questions and the guidance around how they can navigate all of those little pieces.
We've been talking an awful lot about how things have changed, not only in the last year, but in the last several months. Laura just started to talk about that. How different were the attendees' concerns between last year in 2024 and this year when you spoke to them this afternoon in 2025?
Yeah, our clients are really sophisticated. And so, they understand the need to evolve, right, when the laws and there are changes that we're seeing in this landscape right now. So last year, I think there was more of a focus on the basics. For instance, the pay transparency laws were newer. This year, right, the focus is, we're a couple of years into it. What does the enforcement look like? And of course, in light of this landscape around with the focus on DEI, right, where does pay equity fall into that, right? Do they need to change things that they were doing? Do they need to think about things a little bit differently and how to move forward from here? So it was actually a really interesting discussion.
So given all that, Laura, what can you tell people? What are some of the key takeaways you shared today and that our listeners to this podcast episode are really going to want to know?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we've been talking about, and this really translates to a lot of the topics of today, is, your risk tolerance as an organization. Where are you willing to accept some risk and where are you not? And that will really govern how you adapt and how you prepare for compliance in all of these different spaces.
So, Joy, we talked an awful lot, again, with other thought leaders about how important it is to be proactive and sometimes be patient. Would you agree with that in terms of pay equity?
I completely agree with that I don't think employers should be rushing, right, to make any decisions, right? Everything should be strategic and deliberate. So I absolutely agree with that.
Stacey, how are you and Joy and Laura and your colleagues at Jackson Lewis really helping employers untangle what's happening now and, quite frankly, making them feel more comfortable with what they're facing?
Right. Look, a lot of what we do is, we don't always have the answers, right? Because there's not always a yes or no or a black or white answer, especially right now. But what I think we're really good at is digesting what's out there and helping them understand on a practical level what the risks are, what the benefits are, and really talking them through from a practical perspective of the different options for moving forward and helping them really achieve their individual goals, right? Every client is different. They have different, goals, they have different responsibilities, and they have different risk tolerances. And so I think that what we do best is helping them identify what's the right path forward for them.
So, Laura, I'm going to turn to you. What else can we do?
Yeah, I think Jackson Lewis is doing a great job of just monitoring all of these developments in the pay equity, pay transparency space, right? Each area of law has new developments every week, every day. And so we are really working hard to ensure that our clients don't have to track everything across the country and that we can do it for them and then provide a really synthesized, easy document or information for them to take back to their teams and implement. So we do the work to gather the information and then they can use it.
Collaboration and partnership, right?
Absolutely.
It's what we do best. Stacey, Joy, Laura, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, for sharing your insights, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Jackson Lewis's podcast, We Get Work. Focused solely on workplace issues, it is our job to help employers develop proactive strategies, strong policies, and business-oriented solutions to cultivate a workforce that is engaged and stable. Please tune into our next program, where we will continue to tell you not only what's legal, but what is effective. We Get Work is available to stream and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. For more information on today's topic, our presenters, and other Jackson Lewis resources, visit jacksonlewis.com. As a reminder, this material is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to constitute legal advice, nor does it create a client-lawyer relationship between Jackson Lewis and any recipient.